Coffee is a big part of my day. Not only does it help me get through the morning, but I just really love the taste of good quality beans. Trade is a subscription service that brings great coffee from indie roasters all over the country right to your door. Tell Trade what you typically like, whether it's espresso or single origins or even decaf, even how you like to make your coffee, and they will recommend the right beans for you. Or you can just choose from over 450 different coffees. Then you select how often you'd like the coffee delivered to you. Shipping is always free, by the way. And if you need to skip a week or so, just do that. You can do it. No charge at all. Then pick back up when you're ready to get beans delivered to your door again. Go to unitedwedrink.com/trade to get started with Trade today and start getting some of the best coffees in the country delivered to your door. That's unitedwedrink.com/trade. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, co-workers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the United We Drink podcast right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, one of your co-hosts, and I'm here by myself. And for those of you who are new to the show, when I'm by myself, that means we're going to have a guest on later on, and I'm doing this little monologue intro by myself, and it's a good one today. If you're new, we used to have a few different hosts on this show. I've pretty much been on the entire time of this show. Kevin's been on for maybe a little over a year or so, and the person who he replaced, Phil Palmisano, our friend from Canarchy, he's coming back. He's coming back to talk to us, let us know what's going on with his life since he left the show. He's still working for Canarchy, but they have been acquired by Monster Energy since that time. So going to give us a little bit of talk about what's going on there. And the thing that he knows the most about, the thing that he does the best, sales. We don't get too into that here on this show because we're not great salespeople. I'll speak for myself. I am not a great salesperson. Kevin, he can say whatever he wants about that. But I mean, I know he doesn't go out there in the market and try to sell his beer like someone on the streets. This is a great conversation. We get to talk about trends that Phil is seeing through actual data, not just the old eye test there. But we really hope that you sit back, relax, and enjoy us getting to catch up with our friend and learn about what we don't really usually see out on the market in the sales field. So join us in listening to our friend Phil Palmisano from Canarchy.
It's the bear.
It's our friend.
That's Craig.
It's Craig.
Craig.
He listens to us. He watches us. He doesn't say anything, but he judges.
It's basically just Amazon. It's listening in, stalking you in your sleep.
He's gonna add ads into your feed.
Oh, even better.
Phil, how are you doing, buddy?
Oh, well. How are you?
Good. I have not spoken to you and hearing your voice in such a long time.
I know. Had to jump at the opportunity to be on the podcast. I'm longing for just connection with my friends any way that I can possibly get it. So thank you for having me this evening.
Hopefully we don't lose you because you live in the middle of nowhere.
I do, and my internet's not great. It's a little bit better than dial-up. But I did my USPS postman, postwoman, postperson, I think is probably the best way to put it. Told me I am getting a new AOL 300 free minutes CD tomorrow. So hopefully the
nice.
dial-up is solid.
It's not going to come nearly in time. Phil, I have a question and I have a statement. The question is, did you put those glasses on so that we would all think you were a little more studious? And just were you doing that to like kind of prime yourself for this very stimulating conversation?
Yes, and
Mike put his
I
glasses on
mean,
too.
I, as we get older, once you eclipse the wonderful age of 40, your eyes hurt after a while, and staring at computer screens the majority of the day, I end up having to. I think they're yellow tint or something of that nature, blue light filtered.
Or the blue light filter. Yeah.
Yeah, so I try and use them while I'm on a laptop. So
I didn't want to pay
yes,
the extra
I did want to
$100
look
for that.
extra studious.
And my statement, by the way, was listen, if you drop out, just get back, just jump right back in. You know, we'll
Absolutely.
vamp, we'll pretend like it never happened.
I don't know if it's happened 3 times already.
And I don't know if you remember, but there was a span of about 6 episodes where I basically was sporadically part of the show because I just kept dropping out. It became kind of a running gag.
Hey,
Yes.
Kevin lives in the middle of nowhere too, West Boca. Phil, what are
Yes.
what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking. I figured I'm getting together with some old friends, so I might as well get together and drink an old beer, old school from 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of all of my vintage. I'm using air quotes on that word, bottles. So
How is it?
flat. But it's good. It actually held up well. When I opened it and it didn't really make too much noise. There's some really solid settlement on like the side of the bottle. But it's
You stored it on its side?
I did, yeah. I mean it still has that raisiny, beautiful barley wine flavor to it.
It's not overly oxidized.
No, surprisingly not. So, but it's made it to move three or four times. So I figured today was the day it was going to die. So
A good friend, Joel Codner, actually left over, I think it was like a 5-year-old Expedition Stout the last time he was over my house. And I cracked that open, I think last week. My God, was that beer amazing. And it didn't have the kind of age you're talking about on that beer, but oh my God, it was beautiful. I was just sitting there going, why can't more beers be like you?
it really stinks because when you do open up some of these bottles, what I have learned is the ones that age really well, you want them again. And then you're stuck in this situation where it's like, I don't know where I'm going to find a 10-year-old version of this or a 15-year-old version of this that just randomly stored in somebody's closet. And the fresh version does not, it doesn't, the fresh version doesn't taste like it. So it's disappointing and exciting. Yeah, I don't know. More
That
How
times
means
than
you
much
not,
should.
they're
stuff
not
do you
good.
still have? Like,
I don't have a lot. I would say under probably 36 bottles. A majority are Cigar City, older Hunapu, some of the barrel aged stuff. But outside of that, it's I'm sitting on every love child except for number one, which I can't imagine those are overly great at this point in time, especially the early ones. Then I have a few like specialty bottles that I'm saving for good occasions, larger bottles. I can't drink a 750 by myself anymore. Um,
do you
I
have
don't
an
know.
imperial sweet stout?
I don't think so.
No, I remember that beer
I don't
being
think so.
fucking
That was a
awesome.
great beer.
Yeah,
Yeah. I do have one moat water, which I'm constantly intrigued about, but
I forgot all about that beer.
yeah.
Kevin, what are you having?
I've got a Waypoint IPA, Barrel of Monks Brewing, if you've heard of them. And I also have a new bottle of Irish whiskey. It is double oaked called the Whistler that I picked up recently. Pretty tasty. I've enjoyed it. It's a bourbon sherry cask or a bourbon cask and sherry cask for double oak.
Well, I'll have to look for that. I like Irish whiskeys, and like the extra cask aging sounds cool.
Well, I'm preparing because me and the fam are going to Ireland in August. So I'm pretty geeked up about that.
Real quick, speaking about fam, your father made a comment on our website after the last episode.
What was it?
He said that you are not honorary Canadian. You are Canadian because your real mother is Canadian, so therefore you are Canadian.
Well, thank you, Dad, for chiming in and letting us know. That I really, really appreciate that.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, I thought I was honorary. My son his grandfather is Canadian, so I thought he was direct lineage, which means, as I believe I said, he gets a Zamboni on his 10th birthday. But, I don't know how these things work out, but it's good to have someone in the family that really gets it.
I'm having a lager, bridge lager from Deadwoods out of Orlando. This is a brewery I've heard a lot about. A lot of people have spoke good things about them, and this was a gold medal winner at GABF last year in American style lager, and it's really good. One of the better lagers I've had in a long time.
Cool.
Yeah, I was really stoked to see their stuff at Total Wine last time I was there. This and an IPA were there, so I'll have to grab that IPA next time I'm there.
What's the name of the brewery?
Deadwoods.
Deadwoods. Awesome.
Yeah, they're in Orlando.
Can you show the can?
For all of those at home.
Well, no, just for me.
Podcast
Just for me.
material.
This is all about me, guys. Okay, I think I might have seen that, so I might have to pick that up.
One thing I really dig about them is behind their bar, they have one of those old like train station flipping the letters that flip to change, like they would have the destination and the time and all of that, and they have that as like, I guess, a tap list, and they can put like messages on it, and it's so cool looking with their bar.
That's cool.
So Phil, how long has it been since you, like, almost 2 years, probably a year and a half?
Somewhere around there, I think. When I decided to take a hiatus. Well, it's been a little bit longer than that since I've been on the pod, I thought. Did I make it all the way through the pandemic, or
no? Well,
through the current day of the pandemic?
I believe you left at the end of 2021.
Okay,
if I'm not mistaken.
I'll lean
like
to
you did the fundraiser, and then we did one last episode for you, and then you left. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was around what. So we're looking at close to a year and a half, I think.
What I think Mike is asking, is there a hole in your heart? Roughly the size of the United We Drink podcast?
Yeah, or the Grand Canyon. I would like to consider it an eternal black hole. But yeah, it's there.
And it just sucks more and more into it.
Every week when I listen to you guys.
Every other week, to be fair. In that time, you've definitely, Canarchy has become part of the Monster family. I don't recall, your position has changed. I believe you've gotten a promotion, I think.
It's evolved. So I'm now the Southeast Regional Director of Field Sales, watching over Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. for at this current state and the way that we're looking at everything, the alcohol brands for Monster, which is the Beast Unleashed, and the legacy portfolio or our craft portfolio with Canarchy, in addition to some of our NA brands through the Canarchy portfolio as well.
The NA brands through Canarchy, is that like the what's it? The Oscar Blues NA beer?
No, we have a isotonic by the name of Revitalite, which is a Pedialyte alternative.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's backed by Barstool Sports. It was originally produced in the same facility as Pedialyte. Similar bottle. The flavor profile, in my opinion, is much better. My son actually loves it. Every time I come home with samples, I have to tell him, please don't drink this. It's for work. But it's been interesting to learn the NA side of the industry, and obviously now having Monster as an owner, we get a little bit more exposure into the knowledge that they have in regards to that section of the industry, which is a whole new world. So yeah, it's been a wild year and a half, if you want to call it that. Lots of learning, learning different state regulations, trends in states, traveling further from Florida, which is the home of Cigar City, has proven to be challenging and rewarding all at the same time. And, definitely learning more ins and outs when it comes to wholesaler management on a daily basis.
So when you were saying NA, you were meaning like real NA, like not NA beer products, but like what you would consider juice or soda and just regular water. That's
Correct.
pretty. So that's the only thing you don't handle, like the energy drinks or
No.
anything like that. Okay.
No, the energy drinks are going to be so Monster Energy is distributed through Coca-Cola bottling companies. So that's a completely different side of Monster. And the side that when Monster acquired Canarchy last February, the goal was to obtain an alternative distribution network so that they could go to market with this alcohol product. And what they view as a proper channel, utilizing existing beer wholesalers and making sure that we do it right and that we do not cross merchandise, we do not cross promote anything of that nature. We keep this product separate from the Monster Energy side.
Okay, that was my next question. Is that the Beast Unleash is through beer distribution as
Correct.
opposed to Coca-Cola, but I know that Coke and Pepsi have been dabbling or at least talking about getting into alcohol distribution as well over the last year or so. But so you have this all under your similar houses with Canarchy, or is there some
There's
weird?
so we just finished phase one of distribution. We launched 6 states to start, 7 sort of towards the tail end of phase one. Florida was one of those 6 original states. We filled out, I would say it was probably about 75% similar distribution, 60% similar distribution. I did pick up a few new wholesalers. For one reason or the other. And which is nice. It's nice to sort of see. It's interesting when you walk into a warehouse that you've been competing against for years. And the players, the people, because you've sold against them for 13 years, say. And shake their hand, and you're like, all right, let's figure out how we're going to do this. It's exciting, refreshing, nerve-wracking to a degree, But it's been really, really fun for the initial. Well, it's been about 60 days since we've launched the Beast in the state of Florida. So
It's only been that long. Wow. I feel
yeah,
it
about
feels like
60,
it's been a
75
while.
days. So
Okay.
and we're getting ready for phase 2. That's coming up. In my territory, we'll be launching Georgia here in the next probably 2-3 weeks, somewhere around there. So lots of meeting new sales teams, things of that nature. But yeah, so some split houses. But that's not anything I wasn't used to already in the state of Florida. I already had a few territories that were split houses, so I enjoy all of my wholesaler partners. I mean,
Very democratic of you.
Yeah, I love that. You're touching on some of this right now, Phil, but I do have like a lot of questions. But one of the things you're talking about split houses, you're talking about brands.
Mhm.
Obviously, you manage many brands, and you have to put your mind share in all of them. But is there a difficulty? Is there a skill set required to be looking over multiple, brewery portfolios? Is there are specific challenges involved in that? Is there an insight you can lend to that? Because Mike and we've never had to deal with anything like that.
Hmm. So it would be, as we're building out a total beverage portfolio within the Canarchy system, it not only does every brewery have its own personality, and I'll just use something very, very simplistic as Oscar Blues in comparison to Cigar City. Cigar City, home market, Florida. Obviously Joey's really solidified in the state. High Life's been here for a long time. The brewery sort of focuses itself on Florida history, the backbone of Tampa in particular. When you look at Oscar Blues, completely different brewery, completely different personality. If you were going to try to manage those breweries in similar lights, there's no way it would be successful because you're talking to different customers ultimately at the end of the day. When you take it one step further and you say, okay, well, now we're not going to talk Deus Paleo in High Life, but we're going to talk the Beast, which is a Monster brand, which tastes very similar to the Monster Energy beverages. That's a completely different consumer. That's a whole new world. So when you're looking at managing these brands, you almost have to take a step back and look at a larger picture, because what worked for High Life and what has worked for High Life in the past is not necessarily what's going to work for Revitalite or for the Beast. Different segments of the industry are going to sell these products in ways that maybe you're not used to. And you have to be open to pivoting, which I think is a popular word here with a previous host.
Joel just threw up a little bit in his mouth.
You have to be nimble enough to literally in the same conversation take off a hat and put on another hat and move through your business plan, because it's not going to be the same for every brand, and you're going to have different marketing opportunities. You're going to have different, thematic programming that you're running. You're going to have different discounting schedules, literally everything. So, challenging, yes. I would say that it's been one of the more rewarding from a growth perspective for me, looking at more than one thing. It's I don't know. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun learning proper management of time, I think. Um, and
It's
when I
really
say fun,
easy.
it's challenging.
Well, you've always liked a challenge. You're a competitive cat, so I can see that being the case. But when we're kind of on a I mean, to the lack of a better term, a micro level as a microbrewery that is really servicing a very small segment of the market and competing very directly with the brewery down the street from us and every other craft beer in the market. I think it's easy for us to kind of get lost in the weeds on that. I guess one of the things I was asking is when you were talking about like Dale's Pale Ale and High Life, which one's an IPA, one's a pale ale, but they're both hoppy beers, right? They in some ways live in the same category, at least to some consumers. Have there ever been, and listen, you can skirt this. I understand that this. I'm not trying to tread on any ground, but is there ever conversation or worries about cannibalization, or is it just the market is so big, the brands are so different that there really is no worry about cannibalization or competition within the portfolio?
Competition within the portfolio exists. I mean, I think when you look at it from my perspective, it's a micro perspective in comparison to, say, a wholesaler that is looking at such a larger perspective of a similar portfolio. They're looking at hundreds of brands. I'm looking at, nine, nine, mother companies. So cannibalization of portfolio, absolutely. But I think that's where you have to get back to knowing your territory, knowing your customers, knowing your wholesalers, knowing what they want, where it will legitimately rival each other, and then put a plan together for it. I think the hardest thing is we deal with, and this is the big bad word that a lot of people hate, SKU rationalization. Your eyes, Kevin, just lit up. But we deal with SKU rationalization just as much as you guys do, but think about how much larger our portfolio is. So if we're not bringing something to the table, and maybe this is where I've become a little bit more understanding of wholesalers as I've continued to grow, is if you're not bringing something to the table that is beneficial, then you almost have to start contemplating, is it worthwhile to hold in portfolio? And I'm not saying that, every decision is proper. There's definitely some decisions when we go through and we talk about, hey, maybe this brand isn't necessarily going to make it next year. And it tugs on a heartstring of somebody that's been with the brewery for such a long time and has watched a brand in a brewery grow and sort of flourish into what it is. But if it's not doing anything in the market, you almost have to say, okay, well, I understand maybe there's going to be an opportunity in the future. So there is struggle there. SKU rationalization is real, even in within our portfolio. And I think any brewery, even as large or small as you're talking, if they're not looking at making sure that they're putting forth the best products and focusing in on less brands than you can fit on a hand, they're probably doing something wrong. I hate to say that. In this current climate, you need to be able to focus truly on what is driving that business for you, and be it in the tap room or in a retail chain or in an independent or at a wholesaler. If the brand isn't doing anything for you, move forward. Now, your business model might not look like that. You may just end up rebranding an IPA that has the same hops, just in different orders, over and over again, and that's works for people. But I don't know if that is a long-term success plan.
So
It's really interesting.
You talked. I want to go back to kind of what Kevin was talking about. Internal brand competition, and in Florida, beast aside, you only have really two brewery families, right? With Cigar City and Oscar Blues, right? Do you have any of the other Canarchy families in other states like Perrin or Squatters or Deep Ellum in any of your other states?
No, I had Perrin for a short amount of time in Florida. the brand didn't really resonate the way that we thought it would. That doesn't mean that it won't be back sometime in the future. But we've really taken more of a own your local sort of backyard approach with some of the other breweries. So, a brewery that I love in our portfolio personally, Deep Ellum. I would love to have that in my Mississippi, Alabama territory, but right now we're really trying to own that Texas, Oklahoma market, that backyard. So, and Deep Ellum's fantastic. I don't, while I don't have other breweries in the Southeast outside of Oscar Blues and Cigar City, I can tell you that the division of business, as you move further north in the Southeast, it becomes more balanced between Cigar City and Oscar Blues. So I do have a different product mix in states like Georgia and Alabama with Oscar Blues that I don't necessarily have in, say, South Florida, where we are.
What I was just getting at, which is it's a moot question now, but was going to be like, oh, so you focus, you only have Cigar City and OB in Florida. Does it get confusing sometimes when you add another brewery into another state and then trying to focus on that particular state at the time, and then you're moving on to another state and like, oh no, I don't have them here. But I mean, it's moot, but I mean, you talked a little bit in there about your ability to pivot. Here we go. I should add a sound every time that that comes up, but that would mean I'd have to pay a little more attention in editing. But go ahead, Kev.
No, as I say, I think one of the things you mentioned in there, and in a little bit of so you were talking about being married to brands and realizing when it's time to move on. You said a very interesting thing about Perrin coming into Florida. We thought it would resonate in a way that it might not have. There's I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Freakonomics radio, the podcast. So one of the things that has stuck with me from that podcast so much was Steve Levitt talked about his kids and the fact that he teaches them to fail quickly and to abandon things they're not good at, which is the exact opposite of everything they tell you. In the American dream, you just keep plugging away, you keep working your butt off, and eventually you'll get it. And I think that the beer industry is built on this idea that if we have a passion, no matter what, we're going to succeed. We just have to work hard at it. And not to say that, killing a brand is easy, and not to say that you didn't put all the effort you could to make a brand work. But I think there's something so valuable in saying, we're going to bring this in, we're going to give it an opportunity to succeed. If it doesn't work, we're not going to bang our head against a brick wall. We're going to concentrate on the parts of our portfolio. We're going to 80-20 this, and we're going to make sure that the brewery is successful, and we're going to pivot again to what's going to work for us. And it's in the same way with having a brand that has been successful for you in the past. I mean, listen, Miguel Cabrera is 40 years old. He's now a liability. You can't just say he's one of the greatest hitters of his generation and keep trudging him out there. Eventually, you got to say, there's no more production. We got to move on. And we're all sad when that happens. But I think that even though your position is something that is so much more grand as far as SKUs and CEs, there's a lot to be learned on breweries, Mike and I's level and smaller, that works in the same basic manner.
Yeah, it does. Sorry, Mike, go.
I listened to, this was probably 2018 or so. It was when I was living in Philly. I listened to a podcast with a guy from Fusion, the beverage company that does Four Loko. They bought Not Your Father's, and he talked about how many products that they came up with that didn't work out, and how they very quickly were like, all right, this isn't working, can it, move on to the next thing.
So they were bottling them, they canned it because it was working better in cans.
Yes.
At least you can recycle it better.
Sorry, I had to.
Earth Day's coming up. We gotta look out for our planet.
I was like, I'm behind it.
But yeah, don't fall in love with things like your products. I think could be. It's a tough thing, especially for someone like me who we know looks at this industry from a very artistic and personal standpoint, but you have to be able to know when to say goodbye to something that isn't working even if it's near and dear to your heart. I mean, we talked a little bit about this with Fat Tire, with the whole rebranding and the reformulation, and I brought up a quote, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but I'll round about it from Michael Graham from Austin Beer Works. It's like if you have a dog that you love that you could potentially keep alive with a brand new life changing experimental thing, are you going to try that, or are you just going to let your dog die? And I think like New Belgium went with the let's try to keep it alive thing. Now that is not a thing that just failed overnight. That is a 2-decade long brand that they're trying to reinvigorate. But I do think that if something's not working out, you should be able to look at yourself and be like, you know what, it didn't work, and let's move on. Let's find something else that might work.
Phil, in your position, are you part of those conversations? Are some of those things happening above you? Are you consulted?
Yes and no. I think it depends on the situation, because the conversations, they're not like, it's never easy to cut a brand. It's never easy to say. And the last brand that we just actually cut Frostproof, and we have replaced it with another wheat by the name of Theoretical Jam, which is hitting your local grocers here shortly. So please feel free to go out and try it.
What kind of wheat is it, by the way?
It is a pretty standard wheat ale, American wheat ale, with a proprietary yeast strain that we're using. Don't ask me what it is. I'm that far removed from production at this point in time. But the yeast strain, it gives off a almost like a raspberry essence from the aroma to the initial attack, and then it mellows out to like a standard wheat ale finish. It's actually pretty cool. I really like it. So it's a fruit wheat beer without fruit, but it tastes like it has fruit in it, if that makes sense.
And of course, you did that because you didn't want to have like a Belgian wit to compete with like Witness or Wizard. Like
White is an amazing beer, and it's
we discontinued Witness.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah.
No, we just we viewed that full flavor is really where people want to go, and there's a ton of really good standard wheat ales out there, and what we saw with starting out with Florida Cracker and then moving it into Frostproof, which were different beers as much as people sometimes think that they're not. We looked at Frostproof and we looked at, hey, it's performing, but it's not performing to what we need it to perform to. So those conversations are not, 2 days long. Hey, by the way, let's just cut it. It's, we're analyzing data throughout the year. We're looking at, be it scan data or just standard case sales. We're talking to our wholesalers. We're talking to our retailers. There were a lot of people that really loved Frostproof. There were a lot of people that really loved Florida Cracker before that. So it's never easy to cut it. And when you're trying to turn around and say like, hey, we got this brand new wheat, we're working on this wheat ale category. We see an opportunity there. It isn't, while it's a challenging conversation, the data sort of backs it when you're looking at it. And I don't think that's a large brewery, medium brewery, or even small brewery thing. If something's not moving out of your tasting room and you're a small brewery, don't brew a second batch of it, in my opinion. If the public is trying it and it's just you can't get through that 5-barrel batch, man, that's a good sign that you should probably either reevaluate your recipe or cut bait, move on, and look for whatever is next.
So you talked about there, and I think that this is a perfect segue. You talked about analytical data, And that's something you've when you were on the show, we could rely on you for providing data from at the time IRI. You mentioned to us in pre-show that you guys are moving over to Nelson's or
Nielsen. Yeah.
Nielsen's reporting, and you don't have a full grasp on all of that yet, but you threw out some stuff to us about what's going on from what you're seeing in sales trends. So I figure like we should talk some about this because this was kind of your thing on the show and talk
Yeah, I
about
mean,
trends that you're seeing.
so the trends really aren't changing. The one trend
Well, we
since the
don't talk
last
about the trends from sales data on here very often
well,
because
if you're a
I don't have an
historian of
IRI
United We
account.
Drink, the last time I was on and we were talking about things, seltzers were hot. That seltzer category has really died down very quickly. To the extent where like the top 3 to 5 brands really own the category at this point in time.
Who's
A
number
lot of
three?
That's a good question. I would say you're probably seeing a battle south of White Claw and Topo Chico. You're probably seeing a lot of those like, or not Topo Chico, White Claw and Truly. You're probably seeing a lot of like Vizzy has always is it Vizzy? Vizzy,
Is
yeah.
High Noon in seltzer or is that FMB?
So that is technically considered an RTD in a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
categories because that's vodka based. And so what you're seeing is now
Their
White
cans
Claw.
say seltzer, right?
They do, yeah, and it's sort of confusing, but because it's vodka based, you're looking at they tend to fall into the RTD category, and you're starting to see White Claw and Truly play into that. In fact, I saw today Topo Chico's getting ready to put out a vodka and tequila based
Yeah,
Topo
I
Chico
saw those.
seltzer, which I'm stoked to try because I like Topo Chico base. But you're starting to see this like seltzer category calm down. The RTD category, because of the popularity of High Noon and some of these other vodka-based, tequila-based seltzers, sort of rise. And also the canned cocktail thing is still somewhat, hot if you can do it right at the right price. IPAs are king still. You're seeing certain package sizes really dominating when it comes to certain premises. The 19.2 is I, doing a fantastic job of driving small format sales, more so than the 16 ounce currently,
Hmm.
specifically when you're looking at craft. Um, I would say a few of the things that I'm paying attention to and looking at is, multi packs versus 6 packs. So your 12, 15 packs in comparison to 6 packs. It's the consumer is really voting with their wallet, what they want, specifically in times where, maybe money is a little bit tighter for some households. So more bang for buck with larger package sizes really is paying dividend. Um, but outside of that, when you get out of the IPA category, um, wits are still, I believe, number 2, the last I saw. So, they're it's there. Um, beer as a whole is struggling, but craft still finds a way to just sort of stay consistent when it comes to market share. So,
Life
So
yeah.
finds a way.
you mentioned we had a little email going on before this. You mentioned high ABV,
Mhm.
and what is that outside of high ABV IPA? Because like I know like New Belgium Imperial Voodoo Ranger is fucking like gangbusters in the
Have you guys
market.
had Juice Force yet?
I have not had
I
Juice
haven't had it.
Force yet.
It tastes like Sunny Delight, in my opinion, and it
Is that a
It
good thing?
hides the alcohol really well. I have not had Fruit Force yet. I definitely want to. I seek out a lot of the competition right now just because I want to see what they're doing and how they're working on it. But man, New Belgium's doing a great job, specifically in that 19.2 category. It's yeah, it
So what are the other high ABV styles that you see moving besides high ABV IPA? Or is it just high ABV IPA?
So a lot of it is IPAs, but the other categories that you're seeing strong trends when it comes to your double IPAs, your triple IPAs, whatever you want to get up to when it comes to your IPAs. Golden ales, so Golden Monkey, stuff like that.
That
We're
what you guys
seeing,
are going for with Cosmic?
yeah, Cosmic Crown is in that vein. I wouldn't say that it's truly a Golden Monkey
No, it
replacement.
also isn't as high ABV, right?
It's a little bit lower, but again, we just wanted to take our spin on that category in particular, that American, almost Belgian golden ale, how you want to look at it. That price per octane. Think about that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The consumer, specifically when, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, this is not, my company's opinion or anything. My opinion is that if the end consumer is struggling or trying, like, they want to release at the end of the day, be it a weekend, a weekday, um, and they have the ability to buy one can, that can better be good. And that can, for the most part, when you're looking at single serves, is on the higher ABV spectrum. We're seeing really strong trends specifically with Florida Man, just shy of 9% alcohol, easy drinking double IPA. Um, that's a big beer in a 19.2. And
You
and I
do that
think,
in
mhm,
the stovepipes?
yeah,
Oh, I've never seen
stovepipes
that one out
and
there.
six packs only. So,
You know,
um,
it it's really interesting that you say that. And I know this is completely anecdotal, and it's one or two data points. But in my neighborhood, we've done a lot of events and stuff like that, and met a lot of the neighbors, and we do like Christmas stuff and Halloween stuff. And I've had multiple people tell me, I don't drink a lot of beer, but when I do, I want it to count. And when they're pulling a beer up, they're looking at ABV because I have 4 coolers full of beer because I bring beer. I only bring stuff in 12 ounce and 16 ounce, which is typically stuff that's like 7% and below. And they're pulling stuff up and looking ABV, and I'm like, listen, my 12% stuff that's in the bottle. I've got that in the house. Do you want some of that? I'll crack a 750. Oh no 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 no, that's not necessary. But it's interesting that even back in the day, and all of us know, and we're around Funky Buddha and stuff when we were selling uh, other people's beer, and you'd have that college student that came in and would look at the price and look at the ABV. Those are the only two numbers they're looking at and go, well, that's 10%, and that's only 9, and that's 7%, and that's 8. No, no, no. I'm going with the 12% beer. So it seems like what you're saying is that we're seeing that in the greater market, not just for people that are trying to listen to awful people at an open mic.
yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. And it's funny because my neighborhood, when I started meeting my new neighbors after moving to where I moved, it was the same conversations. Yeah, so and so really likes to drink for volume. I like to drink for effect, and it's okay. And then they're like, you have to ask what you stock your refrigerator with after a statement like that. And, so and so drinks Yingling. Oh, Yingling's a great beer. Yeah, but he'll drink 12 of those. Okay, cool. That's his prerogative. I like drinking 3 Golden Monkeys and I'm good. And it's like, all right, cool, man. That's awesome. Everybody drinks differently. Have a highlight. And, it is that consumer that's looking for that. Now, my neighbor that drinks Yingling, I'm super happy to have a beer with him, because it's funny because us in the industry really like our lagers. And we're seeing that trend. The lighter the beer, the better. We have a beer that's not sold in South Florida right now that I would love to get. It's Oscar's Lager. I'm sorry. We're the whole Oscar's Lager thing is changing. It's going to be called Dale's Light Lager. And it is a light American lager. And it comes in a 15 pack. And it's a great price. And it's an amazing beer. Every single time I go to Georgia, I'm grabbing Dale's Lager, old Oscar's Lager, because that's what I like drinking. But I'm also not the individual that is out there, working maybe a blue collar or even, a middle class job that wants to drive home and just grab one can and have it do the job.
So I have two things. One, the Golden Monkey is like $3 for a stovepipe at Wawa. Like I got one of those for the Super Bowl because it was the only Philly area beer that I can get around here, and like that shit fucking hits hard. And is $3, and
Great
but
deal.
so the format size for high ABV, from what I see, I don't look at sales data, but I pay attention to social and see what people are doing, seems to be all over the fucking place. Because what we used to see with high ABV stuff was 22 ounce and 750 bottles. And then when the cans started coming into play, you started seeing it all over the place. 12-ounce cans, 16-ounce cans. Now we got high ABV stuff in stovepipes that is less than 3 ounces off of a bomber, and people are saying bombers are dead. I can't drink an entire bomber of high ABV beer, but they'll dome a 19.2. We have companies like Revolution who are putting all of their barrel aged beers into 12-ounce cans. We have some places doing 8-ounce cans. I see the Cascade has their sours, some of their high ABV sours in 4 packs of 8-ounce cans now. Like I don't know who is right on any of this. I remember a time, I think this was before you were. It was definitely before Canarchy existed, but remember Deviant Dales? Fucking awesome double IPA from Oscar Blues, 16-ounce cans, and it didn't last very long. And I remember our distributor telling us, do not do 16-ounce cans. No one wants them. Like, no one's buying them. That's why Deviant's going away, because it didn't sell. No one wants them. And it's like, now it's all these like venues only want big format cans, the 16s and the 19.2s, like your stadiums. It's so crazy formats on what works and what doesn't. High ABV versus low ABV. I'm not looking for an answer. I was just fucking thinking on that.
Well, I think package size is interesting because, and Kevin, I'm sorry, but I think
No, go. You know more about this than me. I was just going to say a bunch of fucking morons throwing shit out of the wall and seeing what sticks. Go.
No, not at all. I don't know anything. And that's the beautiful thing about it is, Mike, you asked the question, who's doing it right? The consumer will eventually tell us who's doing this right, because maybe an 8-ounce can works. Maybe it's the Dole pineapple 4-ounce cans that really make sense.
Tab that you pull off, like the plastic thing.
What's old is new again, right? Just like the old pull tabs with beer. Who knows?
God damn you, Phil. Don't you do that before me.
All that I'm saying is the package size. It's amazing how the package size is playing in different opportunities. So be it venues, whatever it is. I think coming out of the pandemic, as we're seeing the on-premise consistently change, I think we can all agree that the on-premise is definitely not what it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I think as we're seeing these draft lines tighten up, the importance of a 16-ounce can or larger really plays in, because you may, an establishment that may have had 10 draft lines before maybe only has 5, and they're relying on package. So if you're going in with a 12-ounce can and they're pouring it into a 16-ounce shaker, you got 4 inches of gap. That's a lot of head. Or if the person pours it right, you got, a quarter empty glass, or, whatever it is. So that 16-ounce can really plays into it within the on-premise. So I think we're going to continue to see these larger package sizes really make an impact. And this is me hypothetical or hypothesizing about the situation, but I think that we're finding different package sizes, different ABVs for different occasions. I mean, hell, there's college kids taking a gallon of water, dumping half of the gallon of water, taking a 375 of vodka, dumping it into the half-filled gallon of water, and then taking an entire one of those Mios and squeezing it in, and make that is their drink of the day.
This is why Phil is on here to tell us what the kids are doing, what's hot in the streets right now.
And then they name it, and they write their name on it, and I think it's called a grog or a grog or something of that nature. And that is what the kids are drinking. Flavored water with vodka. And think about how many, Kevin, you grew up in an area with 40s. Did you ever do Edward 40 Hands?
I never did. I heard of Edward 40 Hands, but I never did Edward 40 Hands. Our friend Morgan Pierce would talk about his wizard staff. And the wizard staff was, large format cans stacked on top of each other, which is a similar kind of concept, which I thought wizard staff was better than Edward 40 Hands. But
the challenge with a 40 is that bottom percentage of the beer is probably pretty warm by the time you get to it, right?
And the first sip is pretty gross too. I mean, you want to talk about all the way through. Nothing good about any of that. Old English 48-ounce wide mouse, which I drink several of. None of that was good.
So how about a gallon water bottle partially filled with a 375 of vodka with Mio and water in it? How do you think that tastes towards the end? Or do you care?
Listen,
hard no.
No, I didn't care then. They don't care now. It sounds economical. Listen, the kids are all right. They're figuring this stuff out. They're basically scientists. I want to ask a question. I know we're going to have to get out of here soon, but I want to bring something back to Phil specifically. I know we've asked a lot about industry trends, and I'm glad that we came into a conversation about how drunk the teens and 20-year-olds of America are getting.
21 and up, all right? Come on.
See, no one under 21 is doing that. That doesn't sound like a thing at all. But Phil, one of the things we always get back to, and we talk about our experience in the industry, and we get pretty cynical, and we talk about the things we don't like about the industry, and it's kind of a lot of things that come out here in this podcast. I want to know, I mean, when we all got into the business, we all got in the business around the same time. We were all hanging around the same bar, drinking the same specialty beer, really building a community out of a shared love for beer. And then we found that we loved sports and we loved different things together, music. I mean, but that was the communal aspect of it. Are you still, at this point, do you still love craft beer? Do you sit down and drink like a lager, maybe not even from your company, and go, man, I'm glad that this thing is in production and that I had a chance to have it? Do you have some of those warm and fuzzies still, or is it just a business to you?
Yeah, I do. I just appreciate it differently than what I did 15 years ago at this point in time. Maybe a little bit longer. I'm sure my Facebook time hop or whatever it's called will end up reminding me tomorrow. I appreciate it in a different perspective than what I did, iterations before. I'm happy to say that I still have a beer and I say, damn, this is a really good beer, and I'm really happy to have that. I think about 2 years ago, I finally sought after like one of my last bucket list beers from trading with Pliny the Younger. And it lived up to the hype. It was great. There's still that like enjoyment and fun for me. Uh, I do look at it as a business at this point in time. I have to, but it's still there. I think it's, recently it's really respawned my love for wine, which is something that, Kevin, you and I have had copious nights over wine and discussing the minutia coming out of a bottle. So I'm finding myself consistently falling back in love with different parts of the, just I would say, beverage community at this point in time. Be it NAs, wine, spirits, craft beer, domestic beer, import beer. It's relearning that passion and like consistently finding something that is ever changing. I don't necessarily understand all the trends in craft beer right now. I feel like the old man sitting on his lawn shaking his fist at the kids as they ride their bikes by. That doesn't mean that I don't try them, try to understand them, maybe appreciate them, maybe don't appreciate them. But yeah, it's still there.
Give it a chance. That's all you can ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good to hear. And the thing
What
is
about
that
you
because
guys?
we have no, but the thing is, I mean, Mike, obviously you can, you can answer this, but I feel comfortable saying that we go on this show every 2 weeks and we have so much stuff to talk about that a lot of the negative aspects of it come out because we're talking about, a wide breadth and scope of the industry. But I hope that enough of that, like passion, I mean, a couple weeks ago, I think I had the Savage Life beer on here and was like amazed at how good it was. And I still will have, recently, like hearing you talk about a lager and how impressed you were about it, or having that great old Bell's Expedition Stout. Like it really sparks your imagination and makes you really appreciate those beers. Sometimes simple, sometimes really complex and adjunct laden or what have you. But and also, Mike, your passion comes out constantly and how much you love this industry about its artistic expression.
Yeah, I can be a very negative person about it most of the time.
Don't say.
But it's one of those like I do it because I love it, and I get angry when things are shitty. When people are shitty, people are discriminating, people are purposefully putting out bad products. And it's there's shit pay, shit work environments, all of that. It breaks me almost every other day. But when I come across a brewery that is doing it, in my view, right, who are making sure that they're making quality products, who are taking care of their employees, who are taking care of their patrons and making sure that their patrons can have a safe space to come to and enjoy, who are being parts of their communities, who look at beer as art and want to create art through this too. I am reined in and brought back and been like, okay, good. People like this still exist. But yeah, I mean, it's probably more of a battle with the things that I dislike more often than not, but it is because I still do care about beer and I care about the beverage of this, like the beverage industry, like Phil was saying. Like I've gotten more into wine over the years because of my wife. I still love really good spirits and cocktails. I have gotten so into coffee over the last couple years and the last year, especially because of having the twins. Like I plug, I just signed up for our own trade who you hear on our show. I just signed up for their service to get coffee beans delivered to my house through them, so I can try new interesting like single origin stuff, blends, all of that. Like I seek out cool interesting coffees now to give me something in the morning and early afternoon that perks me up a bit, but also is hits that stimulus of beverage. And I'm trying to get into NA stuff too to cut out some drinking through the week. I love the haze from Sam Adams. I got to go try the Guinness NA. I've been told that that's excellent. And hopefully one of these days I'll order some Black Butte NA from Deschutes because I've heard that that's fantastic as well. And got to try some of the specialty stuff from Athletic. Shout out to our friend Tim, who is a brewer up there in Connecticut.
The NA side is the NA beer side, I should say, is definitely a side that I'm finding myself more and more intrigued by every day. And I think a majority of that is just sort of seeing if the US will ever catch up to how Europe looks at NAs and appreciates NAs in between alcoholic beverages. I was having a really good conversation with a friend over a beer, which, you know, is a whole other aspect of how much I love this industry just simply because of the people. But we were talking about how we've seen so many of our friends that we came up with over the years, and they're no longer drinking for one reason or the other. And but they still love beer. And if they have the ability to have an NA beer that fits what they're looking for, be it a stout. By the way, Guinness Double Zero is amazing. I have not had Black Butte yet, but I've heard that's really good. The Athletic stuff, everything I've had from them is amazing. That's cool because they can sit there and they can actually experience what they enjoyed about the hobby when it was a hobby all these years ago. And so, you know, be it a mocktail or an NA beer, I love that scene. I think it's great. You know, and I hope the consumer starts understanding what breweries are trying to do, and, you know, maybe what some other countries have succeeded in doing previously.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
all right. Well, I think that that's as good a time as any to head into last calls. Or should we ask Phil what his Taco Bell order is, even though like he was a former host? When
It's
was
up
the
to you,
last time
Mike.
that let's do this? When was the last time that you ate Taco Bell, and do you recall what you ate?
It was a long time ago. I always do the same thing. It's a bean burrito, Crunchwrap Supreme, and a double decker taco. Those three things.
I love the fact that you have, like, when you go to Taco Bell, like, you can't have one thing.
No,
you have
you
to
gotta
have
have
all
all
three
three.
things.
Yep.
You got to.
to me, there's three as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy that's kind of the number.
I feel the same way when I go to any restaurant. I sit down, I order 3 entrees. I'm like, I have to have the steak, I have to have the chicken and the fish. You've got to have all 3, or else what the fuck are you doing?
I mean, when you're a baller like
I'm
you
American.
are, then you can go to a restaurant and order 3 entrees. I'll just go to Taco Bell and order 3 things.
I will say this, and just for the sake of fun, is that I always wanted to be what I used to call when I was younger Applebee's rich. And that's where you can go to any Applebee's and order everything you want. And you go in and like, yeah, I'll have the riblets, and I'll have the potato skins, and I'll have this, and then I'll have like 2 entrees. I just like bring them all to me. And to this day, I really think that means you've made it. And I haven't even seen an Applebee's location in like 15 years, but I still am very happy that if I really wanted to, I could walk into an Applebee's and spend $100 on myself. And I'll always be satisfied with that.
Millionaires, right? Like, you're really looking down on those individuals that are like, I'm a dollar millionaire.
You know, listen, I look down on no one. If you are not Applebee's rich, that's fine. If you're Denny's rich, that's good too. If you're IHOP rich, yeah, good for you.
Waffle House?
All love. Spread it
Waffle
around.
House is a good one.
Spread it around.
Do the $20 Waffle House challenge.
I don't know what that means.
Try and eat $20 worth of food at Waffle House. That's a challenge.
There,
We should do that as a podcast. We all go, we bring one microphone, and then we're all in pain.
Yeah.
where is there are there any Waffle Houses up around you, Phil? Because there haven't been any around here in Palm Beach County in a long time. I remember there used to be one in Boynton Beach, many, many, many years ago, but that has since closed. While he
I have
is,
no information on this.
The
don't think
closest
there's-
one is like 16 miles away from me.
it's closer than than here, but
All right, everyone get in your
town
cars.
is
Let's
it
go.
in? What town's it in?
Fort Pierce.
Oh, okay. Okay,
There's-
we'll-
according to
we'll
the
go
Google,
to Sailfish, we'll get some beers, and then we'll go to Waffle House.
there's a Waffle House just
It's a-
outside of Oakland Park.
No, okay.
So,
Do we go to Sailfish or do we go to Buddha?
I mean, it's right next to Extreme Action Park. So, what we could
Oh.
do is we could do the $20 Waffle House challenge and then do high speed race car or go karts.
And then see who goes the longest without throwing up in their go-karts.
Sounds like a party to me.
Okay, so we invite Joel, a bunch of 40-year-olds, disconnected from reality, lame as shit, old men screaming at clouds, get drunk, go to Extreme Action Park, eat bad food. This is the kind of thing that people want to see. We live stream the whole thing. Am I missing the boat here? I think this sounds amazing.
And there's
I think-
also a hospital about 7 city blocks away. So just putting it out there,
And
if
Phil
anyone gets
has the-
hurt.
Tim from Bitter Units, you want to come down and be a part of this? Come on. All right. Well, we'll have to make that happen at some point. So let's go into last calls. The point in the show where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to talk about whatever it is that we want to, beer related, unbeer related. It's unobjected, uninterrupted, unopposed. Our guest, Phil, you get to go first.
Well, I have to give a shout out to the FAU Owls men's basketball program. I love sports and am an avid FAU fan. This past year was amazing. The city of Boca Raton will be celebrating it this upcoming Wednesday, so probably just after this podcast is released. And pretty magical year. I really enjoyed it. Not only did it bring me back to the days when I used to go to all the FAU basketball games, but it also reconnected me with a lot of my friends that I missed having fun with or sharing a beer with. Pretty cool, pretty amazing season. Looking forward to the next season. Go Owls.
That was a pretty magical thing. I'm glad you got to enjoy that.
Yeah.
I'll hop in here. I don't remember if it was last episode or the episode before. I recommended a very weird web series called Local 58 to go check out.
Backtracking on that.
And I am going to recommend another very weird thing. But it's just one episode. I guess that's not even right. It is a short film called Unedited Footage of a Bear from Adult Swim. Please go watch it. I do not want to spoil it. It is very strange. It is a touch disturbing. And it is weird as fuck. And I love every second of it. It's about 10 minutes long. If you love weird, crazy, disturbing stuff, go watch that. That's all. Kevin?
So I'm not sure. I mean, we've told so many stories on this show, and then I might be, treading on the same ground that I've mentioned before. But there was a time that the three of us and Joel were all in, and there's a bear on Phil's phone. We were all in Philadelphia for, I believe it was CBC, and we were all hanging out, having a great time. And that's where the Dem Wolves came from, if you guys remember. Of trotting down the streets of Philadelphia. And one of the great things about our industry, and one of the great things about just being in the beer culture, whether you're a fan and you just love beer and listen to the podcast, or you're like in the industry proper, is the fact that we have these connections and we have these stories. And we're all, getting up in age. We're older gentlemen. We're in our 40s. I mean, I guess older gentlemen is fair there. But when we were unencumbered, when we were going out and having a great time in these cities and being able to travel throughout the U.S. and just enjoy beer and enjoy each other's company, that was an amazing time. And I appreciate it more than words can say. And I encourage anybody who is at that point where they're a little bit younger and maybe traveling a little bit more, being able to hang out with their friends a little bit more, to really appreciate that. And as we get older and we, our kids grow up, and we've got a little bit more time to go out and do things, we should go out and do things again. We should be able to spend time together and have it be maybe not directly related to beer, but it could be in and around that same industry. I really appreciated that time. It's one of my favorite memories of being in the beer industry, was spending that time with you guys in Philadelphia. And yeah, I just love that. And I just want people to be able to, like, the beer industry is great because we get a chance to drink good beer. The beer industry is amazing because we are able to spend time with our friends.
Hear, hear. Phil, do you want to plug anything?
Nope.
Kevin? Just say no.
How can I follow that up? Absolutely not. I don't want to plug anything. What am I, a shill?
I don't want to fucking plug anything either. So, fuck that.
Pleasure, guys.
Brooklyn sparkling water.
I like the Kirkland stuff.
It's not bad. A lot of carbonation. Yes. Maybe a little bit too much for me, which is saying something.
So they need to make a nitro version so that you can blend the two together. And
if they make a nitro version, I will not renew my membership. You have to stand for something or you fall for everything. Is that what you said a couple weeks ago? I can't remember.
I did something along those lines. Phil, thank you for taking time out of your night.
Thank you guys for having me. It was magical. It filled that gaping hole in my chest for just I don't know, probably a little bit. We probably went a little bit longer than we needed to, but yeah.
That's mostly
happy to come back whenever you guys want me to.
He just wants to go to sleep. Let's just let him go to sleep.
Go to sleep.
Okay, I can't. I do have to ask you guys this question. Have you guys
overtime?
Have you guys ever fallen asleep to storm sounds?
Like real storm sounds, or
no? Like it on. So my thing now is sound machine, YouTube. There are. I don't know if you know this, but there are YouTube videos with over 1 million views. So think about that from an ad revenue perspective. Literally a 15-second storm loop, and it's magical to fall asleep to. So
you do realize I have 17-month-old twins, right? So yeah. Sound machines are built into my fabric right now. I fucking hated them before this.
They're great.
Kevin and I went to, I think it was CBC in Denver, and he turned his on the first night we were there. The first time I ever spent time away with Kevin, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's my sound." I'm like, "You can't do that." like I can't fall asleep with that. and he turned it like very low so that he could fall asleep. Now it doesn't bother me, but we do use wind and storm like sounds for the boys, and I find them easy to manage.
None of you will appreciate this, but when Phil said, "Have you ever fallen asleep to storm sound?" He got really close to the camera. There was a come hither look in his eyes. It seemed like he was propositioning me. And
Have you
I
ever gone to
was
sleep on
into
weed?
it. I was into it, and I want to have further conversations about this. So I know you live far away now, Phil, but let's talk about this offline.
On the next episode of United, we have glasses. We should talk about that, and maybe
We
give
do.
some samples.
Have you ever fallen asleep to storm sounds?
Mm.
I think that's a good place to end it.
That's a great place to end it.
One more time, big thanks to Phil for coming on the show. He's a super busy dude between work and his family life, so it really means a lot for us to have him take some time out of his busy life to come on and just bullshit with us for an hour or so. In the meantime, thank you everyone for joining us. Go check out our social. We're at United We Drink on Twitter. We're at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. We're on Facebook as well. If you would like to support the show, we have a couple different ways. Go to our website, unitedwedrink.com, and go to the Brands We Love page. We have some links to some awesome companies in there that if you go through those links and make a purchase, then you can help contribute towards this show. I would highly recommend going and checking out Trade Coffee. I just recently signed up for a subscription with them, got my first bag of coffee delivered to my house. I'm going with the one bag every 2 weeks plan, and I think that that's good enough for us, but you can get a bag every week. You can get 2 bags every week if you're really crazy about coffee. I mean, I thought I was, but I know that there are people out there way crazier than me. They work with independent roasters all around the country who have good ethos and good ethics. I think that it's an amazing company. Plus, if you sign up through that link on our website for Trade Coffee, you will get your first bag absolutely free. So go check them out. We also have Liquid Death Water, Made in Cookware, the American Home Brewers Association, tons of awesome stuff on there. We also have our web store, unitedwedrink.com/store, where you can get shirts, buttons, stickers, totes, a bunch of other cool things there. All of this money goes towards paying for hosting fees. We don't make a whole lot of money off of the show anyway. So all you're doing is saving us a few bucks here and there from our monthly wallets. But we will be back here in a couple weeks with another brand new episode. We hope that you enjoyed this and hope you keep on coming back. Stay cool out there. Cheers.
I took the lead. Somebody's heart. Zula. Whisper.
You are ridiculous.